When you're taking American taxpayer dollars and spending them on an exorcism or a gym membership, something's wrong. The California Medicaid program will pay for tribal prayers. The California Medicaid program will pay for exorcisms. The California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines. We've got every fly-by-night artist in America, it seems, going to California to become a health care provider to get some of the money. And a lot of the times when they get that money, the money never makes it to the patient. They steal it. Every state has this problem, but some have it worse than others. And one of the ones besides Minnesota that seems to have a problem controlling stealing in the Medicaid program is California.
If the government is spending trillions of dollars every year, why does life keep getting more expensive? Part of the answer may be hiding in a place most Americans rarely think about. Medicaid, a program designed to help people get medical care when they can't afford it themselves. A program that costs taxpayers nearly $1 trillion every year. And according to Kennedy, a program that may be losing staggering amounts of money to fraud, waste, and abuse. Not millions, not billions, potentially more than $1 trillion over the next decade. And when you hear some of the examples he gives, you may understand why he says something has gone terribly wrong. For decades, Medicaid has served as one of America's largest healthcare safety nets. The idea is simple. If someone cannot afford medical care, society helps. It's a concept supported by people across the political spectrum. Few Americans want to see families unable to receive medical treatment because they lack money. That's why Medicaid exists. But helping people and protecting taxpayer dollars are not mutually exclusive. And Kennedy argues that while the goal of Medicaid remains important, the system itself is increasingly vulnerable to abuse. According to him, the numbers are becoming impossible to ignore.
One of the things we could do is stop fraud. One of the things we can do is stop the outrageous fraud in our Medicaid program. Now look, I want to be very clear here. I'm proud of Medicaid. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that in our country, if you're too poor to be sick, we will pay for your doctor. That's not true in every country, as you know, Mr. President. Some countries, they'll just let you die in a ditch. We don't do that in America. We will pay for your medical care, but that's outrageously expensive. It's okay, money well spent, but it's very, very expensive. And one of the ways we pay for people's care, particularly for low-income Americans, but also now even more so for middle-class Americans since Obamacare passed, is through Medicaid. We spend almost $1 trillion on Medicaid every year. And once again, I'm not speaking against the concept of Medicaid. We don't want people to die in America. It's one of the things that separates us from other people. But we spend almost $1 trillion a year, and the federal government, some people don't know this, pays for 67% of all Medicaid spending. Some people refer to Medicaid as a federal state program, and it is. The state puts up some of the money, but the federal government puts up most of the money. We pay for about 67% of all the spending in Medicaid. And Medicaid keeps going up. I mean, I've seen studies that show it's going up anywhere consistently between 6 and 8% every single year. And when you're spending $1 trillion and it goes up 6 to 8%, you're talking about real money. What we also know is that there's an enormous amount of fraud in Medicaid. I mean, we know that. There are a lot of studies out there, and not everyone can agree on how much, but I have seen studies from reputable think tanks that show that Medicaid fraud, stealing in the Medicaid program, runs between $1.1 and $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Can you imagine what we could do to lower interest rates or to reduce taxes if we could save $1.2 trillion in our budget?
$1 trillion is difficult to comprehend. 1 million seconds equals about 11 days. 1 billion seconds equals roughly 32 years. 1 trillion seconds? More than 31,000 years. That's how large these numbers become. Kennedy points to studies suggesting Medicaid fraud and improper payments could total between $1.1 and $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Those estimates are debated. Experts often disagree about exactly how much money is lost. But even if the true number were only a fraction of that amount, we're still talking about enormous sums of taxpayer money. Money that could be used elsewhere. Money that could reduce government borrowing. Money that could potentially ease pressure on taxpayers. So where does the problem begin? According to Kennedy, one major issue involves eligibility. Who qualifies and who doesn't?
Every state, I want to make this clear, has fraud. I saw an audit done by our Inspector General in Louisiana a few years ago, and he talked about the incidence of fraud in the Medicaid program in Louisiana, the people who were getting Medicaid who didn't qualify. And I said, can you send me a list of all the people you found in the Medicaid program who didn't qualify, who were making too much money? I don't want names. I just want the amounts of money that they were making and how long they'd been on Medicaid. And he sent me the list, and if I stacked it up here, I could stand on it and paint the ceiling. I mean, we had people making $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year getting Medicaid. Now, that was the state's fault for not checking. Some people say the states don't have any incentive. That's a cynical view. I prefer not to believe that's true. But they see Medicaid as free money, since the federal government is picking up most of the tab. I prefer not to think that's true, but it's probably true to some extent. The point is that if our states would do a better job administering the Medicaid program, and stopping the stealing, we could save $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years.
The senator argues that many states simply aren't doing enough verification. According to his example, audits found individuals receiving Medicaid benefits despite allegedly earning incomes that should have disqualified them. If true, that raises an obvious question. How does that happen? Is it poor oversight, administrative mistakes, outdated systems, or something else entirely? Whatever the cause, Kennedy believes states have a responsibility to monitor eligibility more carefully, because every dollar that goes to someone who doesn't qualify is a dollar unavailable for someone who truly needs help. But eligibility isn't the only issue. According to Kennedy, the next problem may be even larger. The people receiving the money, not patients, providers, or at least people claiming to be providers. For most Americans, becoming a healthcare provider sounds like a serious undertaking. Training, certification, background checks, licensing, professional oversight. But Kennedy argues that in some places, individuals are entering the system with very little scrutiny. And once they're approved, taxpayer dollars begin flowing. That's where he turns his attention to two states that have received significant attention in recent years: Minnesota and California.
Every state has this problem, but some have it worse than others. And one of the ones besides Minnesota that seems to have a problem controlling stealing in the Medicaid program is California. Now, California spends an enormous amount of money on Medicaid. They spend about $220 billion a year. The Fed puts up, federal taxpayer puts up $140 billion of that. So the federal taxpayer, the taxpayers who pay money to the federal government put up most of the money. Not all of it, but most of the money. How much does the Fed put up, federal government put up vis-a-vis the state government? Well, in the Obamacare portion of Medicaid, the federal government puts up $9. So for every $1 that the state government puts up for the Medicaid program, the federal government puts up $9. Wow. And some of the public officials in California have started to look at this as free money, just free money. And they don't try to fight the fraud. Now, how do you stop the fraud? One thing a state can do is investigate people who claim they're healthcare providers. If you claim, we saw this as a problem in Minnesota. If you claim to be a home health provider, you're supposed to have a minimum level of qualification. If you claim to offer to provide after-school services, you're supposed to have a certain level of qualification. I don't think the state government in California even checks. We've got every fly-by-night artist in America, it seems, going to California to become a healthcare provider to get some of the money. And a lot of the times when they get that money, the money never makes it to the patient. They steal it. California, for example, has 12% of the population. In the last decade, they have been responsible for 50% of all of the new healthcare providers formed in America. Most of them are social assistants and so-called healthcare establishments. And there's an enormous amount of fraud there. We saw that once again in Minnesota, which has been publicized more, where people say, I'm now a healthcare provider. Give me the money, and so I can help people. And you give this fly-by-night healthcare provider money, and they never help people.
The Minnesota scandals attracted national headlines. Investigators alleged that programs intended to help vulnerable people became targets for fraud. Multiple prosecutions followed, but Kennedy argues that Minnesota isn't the only state facing challenges. He points to California as another example where oversight may not be keeping pace with spending. According to Kennedy, California spends roughly $220 billion annually through Medicaid-related programs. A significant portion comes from federal taxpayers. And that's where his criticism becomes especially sharp, because he argues that some public officials begin treating federal funding as if it were free money that keeps flowing regardless of how effectively it's monitored. And then comes the section of the speech that generated the most attention, because Kennedy starts listing examples of services he says are being funded through California's Medicaid system. And the list becomes
in California, under its state government's definition of Medicaid, the California Medicaid program will pay for tribal prayers. The California Medicaid program will pay for exorcisms. The California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines. The California Medicaid program will pay for meal deliveries. In some cases, the California Medicaid program will pay for in-home chefs. Thousands of businesses have popped up in California that literally cater to Medicaid patients. The Medicaid program in California will pay for sports club fees. The Medicaid program in California will pay for a gym membership. The Medicaid program in California will actually pay student loans. They do it under the guise of, well, we want to encourage people to become healthcare providers, and they can't do it if they have onerous financial burdens, so we'll pay for their health care. Now, once again, Medicaid is supposed to be for sick people. When you're spending other people's money, it's real easy to expand beyond that. The Medicaid program in California will pay for scooters. I get that. Sometimes that might be necessary. bicycles, but it'll also pay for music lessons. The Medicaid program in California will also pay for art lessons. This money didn't just fall from heaven. We all thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets.
This is the moment where many viewers stop and ask, wait, what? Kennedy cites reporting describing services that he argues go far beyond Medicaid's original purpose. He lists tribal prayers, exorcisms, herbal medicine, meal deliveries, in some cases, in-home chefs, gym memberships, sports club fees, student loan assistance, music lessons, art lessons. Supporters of these programs argue that health outcomes can be influenced by many factors beyond traditional medical treatment. Critics argue that such spending stretches the definition of healthcare far beyond what taxpayers were promised. Regardless of where someone stands politically, the examples raise a broader question. Where should the line be drawn? At what point does a healthcare program stop being healthcare and become something else entirely? For Kennedy, the answer is straightforward. The further Medicaid moves from its original mission, the more opportunities there are for waste and abuse, and ultimately, for fraud. The senator's broader argument isn't just about California, or Minnesota, or any single state. It's about incentives. When someone spends their own money, they usually pay attention to every dollar. When they're spending someone else's money, the calculation changes. That's why oversight matters. That's why audits matter. That's why accountability matters. And according to Kennedy, the current system isn't providing enough of any of them.
When you're taking American taxpayer dollars and spending them on an exorcism or a gym membership, something's wrong. And if we want to lower the cost of living in America, if we want to be able to find the money to give people a tax break, if we want to lower interest rates in America, one of the easiest, best ways to do it is to try to fight the fraud in our Medicaid program. It's as simple as that. $1.2 trillion over 10 years of fraud. This didn't just happen, Mr. President, as you know. This has been going on for a long, long time. And I want to give credit where credit is due. Dr. Oz, our new CMS director, the Department of Justice, are both working to try to stop this fraud. But it has been there since God was a baby. And it's got to stop now.
At the end of the day, this debate isn't really about politics. It's about trust. Americans pay taxes with the expectation that their money will be used responsibly. They expect healthcare programs to help people who need care. They expect safeguards against fraud, and they expect accountability when those safeguards fail. Whether Kennedy's estimates are exactly right or not, his central argument is clear. If fraud and waste can be reduced, taxpayer dollars can go further, and the people Medicaid was designed to help may ultimately receive better support. Because when government programs become too large to monitor effectively, the people who suffer aren't politicians. They're taxpayers, they're patients, and they're the families relying on those services every single day. If you enjoy hearing breakdowns that cut through the politics and focus on the facts, subscribe for more. We cover the biggest hearings, investigations, and government accountability stories so you can decide for yourself what's really happening.